Save the Semantics, episode 157. It is October 25th, 2021. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some stuff that I might be interested in, about just sort of the daily or weekly ongoings of my life. And yeah. So, I had recorded, or I thought I had recorded something this weekend, but apparently not. I went back into the app that I'm using to record, and it just wasn't there. I thought I had maybe deleted it on accident. I checked the trash, it wasn't there. Like, I don't know what the fuck happened to it. I did 30 minutes, and that shit was just gone. So yeah, just gonna do another one during the week. I have a little time on my hands. Today's been a pretty frustrating day, I'm not gonna lie. Let me situate myself. Give me a second. So today's been a pretty frustrating day. It's a Monday. I'm technically supposed to be working, but I don't have power. And luckily I don't have a whole lot on my plate at the moment, so I'm kind of able to take it a bit slower, but still frustrating. Power is out at my house, so I had to go to Starbucks to get, Wi-Fi, and then for some reason I couldn't, connect to the Wi-Fi there, so I used my phone as a personal hotspot, but I didn't want to use it for too long because I don't have that much data on my phone left. So yeah, pretty frustrating. Just like the fact where I live, the energy, power infrastructure is like just built on like super glue and fucking duct tape. So just like any sign of any change in weather, like this is like a little breeze, like PG&E turns off our power. I mean, yesterday it was a pretty heavy storm, it was a heavy storm going on, but still, man, like just like the last 2 years, it's like felt like this shit is just fucking it's just like a paper thin, goddamn like shield, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of pathetic, and it pisses me off. And I'm like not even like one per like I have options is the thing. Like I'm able to. It sucks that I have to like go out to find somewhere to work, but that's like not even that big of a deal. Like some people need power. They need electricity for, I don't know, like I read somewhere about some people who are disabled who need electric, they need machines to keep things running, right? So that's like that's incredibly detrimental to them. So like just the fact that like it's just so, there's just no, oh my god, it's a fucking nightmare with just like how things are set up, and just the fact that there's really no, they have, it's just a monopoly, of a utility company. So there's really no other like, there's no other energy providers in our area. So there's just no, it's really hard to be like, I don't know, it's hard to push for change when there's not a whole lot of like, movement to make those changes, right? And it doesn't seem like the California government is really making any pushes. I think the biggest thing is for there to kind of be a decentralization of of a private, utility company, because PG&E is a private company, but they have so much like influence in legislature just because they're the sole provider in most of the areas around here. So yeah, it's frustrating. It just fucking sucks, and I just wish, I'm hoping, like I like the only like, there's really not a whole lot of, maybe I haven't really read up a whole lot but I haven't seen a ton of um, news like regarding just kind of like uh, pushing for legislature regarding this. It's like, is this like energy crisis? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, maybe what I think is that I think the population that is affected, which includes myself and other people who live, around me, I think the population is too small for there to really be enough of like an outcry to um, persuade there to be kind of governmental action, I feel like. And I think it's also, like I mentioned, I think PG&E also just has a lot of power and influence in legislature, like just the fact that they're like, oh yeah, we don't want to be sued if say there's like an electrical fire or whatever like that. We don't want to be sued for that, so we're going to turn off the power instead, so people that need access to electricity and shit are going to suffer instead. So we don't have any viable solutions or anything like that. It fucking sucks, man. It's a shitty situation all around. So I'm just kind of trying to make the most and the best out of it. But yeah, other than that, yeah, today's just been frustrating. I've just been kind of in a fucking grouchy ass mood this entire morning. Yeah, luckily I don't have anything that's like super, that's like, that needs to be done, in a timely manner, but still frustrating for sure. I've been, yeah, let's talk about some good stuff. I have to make up for it because I lost all of that somehow. I don't fucking know how, but I recorded it. I thought I saved it, but I just apparently not. That shit just doesn't exist anymore. It's just, maybe it's in the cloud somewhere, but it's just not in my files. I don't see it anywhere there. Anyways, I've recently, I'd say maybe in the past couple of weeks or so, really kind of gotten back into NBA basketball, and that's been really exciting. I've been having a lot of just fun. I've really just only been consuming basketball content. It's like I'm back in middle school again. It's kind of funny. I think I mentioned this before, but when I was really into basketball, when I would play it like every single day, I used to go on like NBA.com and just consume just news articles upon article, just like every day, reading up on like, Warriors, like potential, player signings, possible potential trades, right? Looking up at the stats, who's like, who's kind of got who are like the stat leaders, in the league, like that sort of thing. Like I was just reading up on it just constantly, like every single day. I think it was just that was the only, I only went to NBA.com and like the Warriors website, and that was it. And it's kind of like that right now. I'm sort of, I'm having a renaissance of kind of like a resurgence of like passion for basketball, which is, I think, great. I've kind of lost a little bit of interest over like the past few years. I'm not gonna lie. Even during the period of time when, the Warriors were like dominating, my sort of interest and my kind of what is it? My sort of my involvement with it kind of waned over time. Like I think it sort of peaked for me when the Warriors won in 2015, right? Like that was just sort of like the pinnacle of it was the peak. That was just like the most like like euphoric sense of like, oh damn, this is what it feels like to be at the top, right? Um, and from that point on, even though they won two more championships, like um, I think along with other people, even though I am a Warriors fan, I'm very happy for the franchise that they've been able to get three rings. Um, I just think there's definitely a lack of competition in the league because of like the Warriors and like the Cavs too. The Cavs were kind of like, they were essentially like trying to be the Warriors. They were trying to be the team to beat the Warriors, and they did beat us. The year after, right? 3-1, blowing a 3-1 lead. But there's just like not a whole lot of. I'm guessing it wasn't really exciting for a lot of people. Like even though I remember like the finals with KD, those finals got like a lot of it got a ton of viewership, but that doesn't mean that it makes it necessarily the most exciting or competitive, you know what I mean? And I think at least this year and like the last year as well, like that kind of has it's sort of shifted a little bit. Like obviously there are still teams that you can consider are like super teams, maybe like the Nets and the Lakers. I'm gonna get into all of that in a bit, but I think there's finally a lot of there's a lot of like great competition out there. So I think it's really like open as to who can win. I think there's a lot of opportunity for different teams to kind of excel. So that's exciting, and I think seeing the Warriors really improve this year, like they look pretty good this year. I think also kind of helps, give me kind of a renewed sense of passion maybe and appreciation for the game. And that's really exciting. It's been a long time since I've really felt super engaged with basketball, so I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah, let's get kind of into what I feel so far. We're about 3 games into the season. Most teams I believe have already played 3 games, and there's a lot of it's difficult to really give any definitive stances so far. I'll just start off with the Warriors. They look good at the moment. They're 3-0. They just beat the Kings last night. I was watching the game up until like maybe like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then my power went out. Luckily, they were already up by like 10 or so, which is like a decent lead. So I wasn't like super, I wasn't super stressed about missing, what could have potentially been a tighter game. So, happy that they got the win from that. The first 2 games were pretty exciting. I think the first game they were just kind of firing off on all cylinders. Like everybody played really well. Like I mean, Curry had sort of a like a down night in terms of like his scoring, but he still had a triple double. And then everybody else was able to like contribute, which is great. I think the bench looked really good. Poole looked really good that game, and yeah, that was a really exciting game. Man, they were able to pull it off in Staples Center. They played the Clippers in their second game. They looked pretty good. They had a lot of turnovers. So they almost blew it. They almost blew it. Paul George had a pretty strong. He was leading a comeback for the Clippers. So he got a little hairy towards the end there in the second half. They were just turning it over like crazy. I forgot how many turnovers they had exactly. It was like 20 22. But yeah, they look good. Curry had 43. So I think that was just kind of like the main detractor from that win, was just the turnovers and the fact that they gave up a pretty decent lead. But they got the win. So, and then last night they were playing the Kings. And I think most games with the Kings, I don't know about most games, but a lot of the games with the Kings, considering we play them like what, 4 times during the year, 3-4 times during the year, like those games are gonna be like, some of those games are gonna be pretty close. I think, like, just because there's that NorCal rivalry. But yeah, fun game, good stuff, and yeah, Warriors are looking good. I think there's still a lot that we can kind of expect, considering that Wiseman is out. I think Kuminga is out as well. I don't know how much time Kuminga and like Moody are gonna get in terms of minutes, because they're still pretty raw from what I've seen, still pretty fresh to the game. But I'm excited to see once everybody is like healthy. Clay, obviously, I think he's gonna come back in, I want to say January. That's what I've heard, January, February. So it looks like he's I saw him like shooting around and stuff. I think he's not ready for contact gaming yet. But yeah, exciting stuff, man. I'm really excited to see where we're headed. We almost made the playoffs last year. It was very close. We were just, we just lost to the Lakers, and then consequently we lost to the Grizzlies. So it was very close. We were almost there, but yeah, I think we're looking pretty good this year. So I'm excited to see what's in store for us. What else? I did a whole like standings thing when I first recorded, so I'm gonna try to do that this time as well. Hopefully I kind of remember. I was kind of it was a bit of a rough episode. I'm not saying that these other episodes are rough either, but I was like struggling to name teams and shit, so maybe this will turn out a little cleaner. I think there's been a lot of exciting games for sure. The first, outside of the Warriors games, there was the Knicks and Celtics game which went into double overtime. The Knicks, season opener. So that was an exciting game. That was like, everyone who went to MSG, like, they got their money's worth for sure. Like, even though the day after they were probably, maybe hungover or just fucking exhausted from a long night out. I'm also going to a Knicks game when I go to New York, so I'm pretty excited for that. I got a ticket for them when they're facing off against the Bucks. So that's I'm very happy that I got kind of lucky with the timing and everything. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that the Bucks are gonna be like healthy, because I want to see like everybody play. I want to see how the Knicks do against the Bucks, because like the Knicks, what seed were they? They were like the fourth or fifth seed last year, and they lost against the Hawks, right? So, and I think they added Evan Fournier, which I think is a pretty big piece. He was a pretty big contributor to their win against the Celtics. And they kind of kept a lot of the core pieces that helped them get to that fourth or fifth seed last year. So I don't know. I don't I don't see them winning. Like, I mean, that's a pretty, I don't think it's that controversial to say that I don't really see the Knicks winning the championship, but they could make some noise. I want to see them at least get to the second round. I think there's just that they haven't really done enough to really prove that they can be a contender at the moment. They also just lost last night to the Magic. I think that was a pretty winnable game. They just turned it over a lot. I mean, I gotta credit the Magic too. The Magic played their ass off. Terrence Ross had like 20 points in the fourth quarter. Um, and well, I forgot his name, Cole Anthony. Like he balled the fuck out. I think he's a rookie. I forgot exactly if he got drafted this year or last year, but he's a pretty new player. And yeah, I gotta give some credit to the Magic. I don't think the Magic are probably gonna be pretty low, pretty low in the standings, but still, each team, every team, regardless of how shitty they are, they have they have the potential to make some noise and pull off some upsets. Because I know I remember when the Warriors were pretty bad, like back when I you know used to watch them every single game, every single night. They had some really good gutsy wins against like premier teams. They were always like I don't like. Of course, there were blowouts here and there, but I remember just like how much effort they put in. You know what I mean? So I have to like I don't really like to discredit the the lower not lower seeded, but the sort of the non-playoff teams, because they work, man. They're just a lot of them are just very young teams, so they don't have a whole lot of experience in terms of playoff experience and cohesion as an NBA team. But they work, man. They can any team is capable of beating the best team in the league. So you know I think that there's always going to be games like that. And for the Knicks, it might be a bit of a hiccup here and there. The Nets lost, right? The Hornets beat them. Hornets look good too. Hornets are 3-0. This is the first time in their franchise that they're 3-0, which is crazy. So big ups to them. And they did it. They did this in the fourth quarter. They managed to pull it off in the fourth quarter without LaMelo. So that's pretty. That's pretty good. I think that they look. I only really watched a bit of the fourth quarter, but they had like a pretty decent lead. Not like crazy big or anything, but decent sized lead. So they were able to maintain that. So yeah, good job to the Hornets. I think they might make some. I don't know. Again, it's too early to say, because I remember the Cavs were like they were like 4-0 last year, and people were like, "Oh shit, you know, they might have a chance. They might have a shot in the playoffs," and that just completely fell apart. So it is a little early to really give definitive statements on teams and where they're gonna end up. Like, I mean, the Nets are like 1-2, or yeah, they're 1-2, right? Yeah, the Nets are 1-2. The Lakers are 1-2. Like, it's just too early. It's way too early to really say. So, but it is like it is fun to kind of give like to kind of speculate on where teams can end up and sort of like their trajectory and everything like that. I think you can tell like which teams for sure are gonna be like, are gonna have a pretty good like run at things. Like, of course, the Warriors, right? I think the Bucks for sure. I know they lost pretty badly to the Heat, but they were also missing like half of their team too. Like a bunch of players were injured. Still, they still lost by like 40 something. So you have to give the Heat some credit for that. But yeah, I'm just kind of like I'm really just jumping all over the place. I'm not really giving a whole lot of coherent. You know, I'm not going like east and west. I'm just kind of jumping all over the place at the moment. But you know, with all that is to say that I think this season is looking to be pretty exciting so far. I've been tuning in like pretty much every night to some game. You know what I mean? I'm watching. You know, I like seeing other teams and how they play. Just learning about a bunch of new players that I had no idea about. I wasn't really paying that much attention last year. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be excited for, not just for the Warriors, but for other teams as well. Chicago is looking pretty good. They look like an exciting team. They're 3-0, with adding Lonzo and DeRozan and Caruso. They look like a pretty competent team. I think for sure I'm for sure they're gonna make the playoffs. I don't know how, you know, where they're gonna end up in the standings, but they're gonna be a good team, I think, and I think that they might you know, might be a few surprises here and there. What else? What else? Let's just do the standings for now. I'll start off with the West just because I'm a little more familiar with the West. I'd say I'm gonna try to go. Should we go top to bottom? That's what I tried to do last time, and it was kind of like a little scatterbrained. I mean, this is scatterbrained in itself, but yeah, might as well. At the top, I would probably say it's the Jazz and the Nuggets again. Jazz, Nuggets, Suns, not in really any particular order. I believe it was Jazz, Suns, Nuggets last year, but I think those three teams are gonna be battling for the first seed for sure. I don't think that much is gonna change. Both teams didn't really make any significant moves this year, so I feel like they all have like really pretty strong cores. So I think those top three teams for the West are going to be more or less intact, in my opinion. Were the Blazers fourth last year? They were either fourth or fifth last year. I think the Blazers are going to make the playoffs. What am I talking about? The Warriors. I'm gonna put the Warriors like either 4, 5, or 6. I think they're gonna be top 5, top 6. I'm gonna say top 6. I think they're looking pretty good. I think they can really play against anyone, and I think we're gonna have trouble against the Nuggets. I don't know who is going to be able to really respond to Jokic. I don't know. I don't really think like Looney could do a decent job at guarding Jokic, but other than that, Draymond, right? I think Draymond could put in some work with Jokic, but he's pretty unstoppable. Just the way he plays is like incredible. I have to, it's so like, I don't know how to describe his play style, but it's like very unique for one. I think he's very like unselfish as a player. He's just a very like, well-rounded and just like a really interesting player to watch. You really don't like he's sort of like the there's a reason he was MVP last year. Like he's kind of like the sort of like the embodiment of like what basketball should be in a sense, right? Like someone who is like he's not incredibly athletic, right? But he's an incredible passer. He has these like crazy post moves that like nobody else really can pull off. Like I think like maybe Dirk is like a good comparison for someone who pulls off those types of like jump shots at his size, right? Um, and yeah, I think he looks like it looks like he's like a pretty down to earth individual as well, so that kind of helps. So yeah, um, I feel pretty good about the Warriors in top six for sure. Um, and then I think I'll throw the Blazers in there. They usually have like a pretty good regular season. It's just they kind of falter in the playoffs. I mean, they did make it to what was it? Two years ago when it was Warriors and Raptors in the finals. Didn't they go? Weren't they in the conference finals? I don't remember exactly, but um, I just don't like. Again, they do well in the regular season, but I just don't see them getting to the finals, and I definitely don't see them winning. Unfortunately, they just don't have. They're always kind of missing something. You know what I mean? Like Damian is an incredible player. C.J. McCollum is great, but I just like I think the defense, right? That was like sort of like the main criticism they received. They lost to who did they lose to? I think it was the Nuggets they lost to, in the first round, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. I am not 100% on that, but I think, yeah, I think they'll still be like top six though in the league for the Western standings. And then after that, what have I said so far? Nuggets, Jazz, Suns, and now is my cue to find another spot because this guy just gonna start using his leaf blower. All right, I'll be back in just a bit. Anyways, back to the Western standings. Suns, Nuggets, Jazz, Warriors, Blazers, Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies look pretty good. I think they have a chance. They didn't quite. They were eighth seed, right, last year, because they made it to the play-in. So I think they might bump up this year. We'll see. And then the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to be a bit lower than anticipated. Maybe they might jump up. Who knows? But again, it's too early to say definitively where any of these standings are going to be. But more or less, I think we can get like a decent sort of approximation of things. I think the Lakers look a little rough. Just like if things don't look cohesive, like they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine, but it's just I think they have some things they gotta sort out first. So Lakers in 7 or 8 maybe I think top 6 might be a better guess. Who else? Mavs are gonna be top. They're gonna be there. They're gonna be there. I don't know. Mavs are kind of hard to tell. They added Jason Kidd as their new head coach, which I don't know. I don't know how that's gonna turn out. Just like reading up on it. There's an excerpt from Giannis's book, and it just seemed like Kidd was not that good of a coach. He seemed like pretty it just seemed a little. He just didn't. It just didn't look like he knew how to coach, and he's kind of he's an asshole, right? In his personal life, so that kind of carries over into his coaching as well. So I don't see that working out well for the Mavs. So is that top? That might be 7. Okay. And then I'm gonna throw in the Wolves as well. The Wolves look pretty good this year. I think they have a good defense, or what they've kind of shown so far. They haven't really played any like playoff teams yet, right? Like a lot of the teams they've played so far have been pretty low tier, right? Low caliber, but they look pretty good so far. So I think they have the potential to make it to the playoffs this year. So I think that kind of rounds out the West for the most part. There's going to be some other teams that might make some splashes in the West, but at the moment I can't really think of them. Let's move to the East. I think the East is going to be pretty similar to last year. I think the only team that's going to make a big leap are the Bulls. I think the Bulls are going to be sort of the one team that's gonna shake things up a little bit. But for the most part, I think things are gonna be the standings are gonna be more or less the same as last year. Top 3, Nets, Bucks, and the Sixers. I think that's not really gonna change. And then after that, I'm gonna throw in the Hawks at around 4 or 5, more or less where they were last year. Knicks, they're gonna make the playoffs for sure. I don't know if they're gonna either be, I think like 6th seed is like a good place for them. I think the Bulls and the Knicks actually are gonna kind of be like head to head. I like the Hawks at the 4th seed though. I think they're gonna be just there. Just almost near at the top, so they're looking pretty good. And then I'm gonna throw in the Bulls and the Knicks, kind of 5 and 6 maybe. I know the Wizards made it to the 8th seed last year, but I don't know for sure. They do have a 3-0 record right now, and they look decent, but I just don't know for sure. I forgot about the Heat. I'm going to throw the Heat at 5 instead. And then the Knicks and the Bulls are going to be like 6 and 7. And then that 8th last seed in the East, the 8th seed, I'm thinking maybe it might be the Wizards or the Hornets. I think it's going to be the Wizards or the Hornets. Both teams right now are 3-0. I think that's going to change, obviously. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to really maintain their trajectory. They look good. I haven't really seen the Wizards play that much, but the Hornets look pretty good. So I think those two teams are going to be like kind of battling it for the 8th seed, in my opinion. And that sort of kind of rounds things off. I have to give some credit to the Milwaukee Bucks for winning the championship. I know I talked about the finals, when they won and everything, but I think their whole run as well has kind of also given me a bit more of like a incentive to watch basketball again. I think there was just a lot of exciting moments during their run. There's a lot of ups and downs. I know the Bucks fans were pretty they had a lot. That is a pretty, they won, but it was a pretty stressful road to the finish. I know up until like pretty much like the last game, they were calling for Bud's head. So I think, now that they finally won, they finally got the chip, I think things are going to be a little more mellowed out for them in terms of expectations, maybe. Of course, there's still going to be expectations for them. They were the champs, right? But I think there's going to be less of a pressure to perform as high, and I think they it seems like they know how to handle things going into the playoffs, right? Because the last year they were the 3rd seed, and the 2 years prior to that they were the 1st seed, and both times they underperformed in those 2 prior seasons. So I think they understand that they might be like gassed out by the time they make it to the playoffs because they're really like gunning for that 1st seed. But I think as long as they're like placing top of the standings, they'll be fine. But yeah, I think just kind of seeing them win their chip was very is very exciting, and I think that a lot of fans kind of feel pretty similarly, where it was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like there's like a sense of competitiveness against it. There's a new champion, right? The finals this year were pretty exciting, so I think there's a lot of potential for there to be there's just a lot of things to look forward to. So I have to credit the Bucks for kind of giving me a little bit of sort of hope, and I don't know, it's just like excited, some excitement in there, along with the Warriors kind of looking like they're competitive again. So yeah, a lot of good stuff in the basketball world. I know this is this podcast might turn into just like a basketball podcast for a while, just because that's really all I'm going to be consuming, honestly. But yeah, I'm gonna be tuned in every night. I'm gonna be just reading up on things, listening to podcasts and that sort of thing. So looking forward to the rest of this season, and I'm looking forward to giving my thoughts on what's going on in the league. So that's gonna do it for this episode. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.